Good evening, Lara. How are you?
I'm good. You're looking gorgeous. Hi, Sharon.
Thank you. I'm loving your house right there. You got a piano and a guitar going on. You're a bit of a musician, are you?
Yeah, singing is so good for the soul. Keeps me calm and focused and centered.
Awesome. Looks very nice.
Good for the pelvic floor too.
So we'll just kick straight off. And for those who haven't had the pleasure of meeting you before, know nothing about you, can you tell us a little bit about what it is that you do?
Sure. My name's Lara Eardley. I'm a pelvic floor strength instructor. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist and a mentor for women to strengthen their pelvic floor muscles. And there's a great number of reasons why you would want toned, juicy, and responsive pelvic floor muscles. Firstly, because you want a life of continence. So that's very important because at the moment there's an epidemic of incontinence in Western society. Up to 80% is suffering from pelvic floor dysfunction and incontinence at some stage in their life. So you want to have fit, juicy, toned and responsive pelvic floor muscles, not only for a life of continence, but also for sexual fitness. Knowing how to dynamically move your pelvic floor muscles makes you incredibly fit and talented in the bedroom. Mm-hmm. And also, if you look at the highest end of practice, when we move all of the pelvic floor muscles in different ways and also in unison with each other, specifically the front, the middle and the back of the pelvic floor, when we individuate them and learn those exercises at the highest level of practice, we're looking at spiritual enlightenment or awakening, what the East Indian people would call the awakening of the Kundalini, or in China, ancient Chinese sexual medicine, which is also applicable to celibate Buddhist monks, are using this Qing Qi, which there's a sexual energy which is increased in the body, again for enlightenment purposes. So you awaken the chakras and you awaken the sexual energy in your body for personal power at the highest level. But I teach dynamic pelvic floor exercises because of pelvic floor dysfunction, which is incontinence, and also, of course, sexual fitness, and also pelvic organ prolapse. So probably my greatest passion is preventing women from having their organs removed, because it really is a preventable, in most cases, a preventable scenario. But at the moment, there's no education in the West that teaches these dynamic pelvic floor exercises. So that's what I teach. And I actually teach very conservatively, because there's so much taboo surrounding the pelvic floor muscles that I teach in a very conservative way so that I can reach all of the women of the world for their own empowerment.
Yeah. So how exactly, or what led you to get into that field of work?
Well, I was doing a fine arts degree, which I've completed in 2004. So you can probably see I engraved my piano. I'm actually a sculptor by trade. And when I was doing fine art, I was very interested in the power of color and color therapy in accordance with the chakra system and in accordance with ancient Indian medicine, Ayurveda. And through that course of study, I was in the bowels of the university library looking at a lot of deep, profound religious texts, and they were to do with awakening the Kundalini, which then led me to awakening the Qing Qi. And I found these really amazing coincidences, which kind of proves that you're on the right track when you get all these coincidences happening in your life. So the coincidence was that, even though I was studying for the purposes of, imbuing the viewer who looks at my art with spiritual meditations, or not really, lessons, I suppose, I found that they're using dynamic pelvic floor palpations, and it's very secret that you're not supposed to talk about to awaken these energies. And that also coincided 2 years later with the birth of my son, and I found it difficult to jump on the trampoline for more than 5 minutes without having to go to the bathroom. And so that was like when I put all these coincidences together, I started really diligently practicing these pelvic floor exercises. And then when I realized not only that I became very fit in my own internal body, that I realized, you know, by practice and discussion with my girlfriends that this is going to cure a massive epidemic of incontinence. And then I went on to study pelvic floor function and anatomy at the Herman Wallace Institute. And since then I've been, you know, following the leaders in the world, including myself, across the globe for pretty much the last 9 years. And even I've temporarily moved away from art because I know that I can live a life that can really help cure this epidemic and help a lot of women feel extremely empowered in their body.
And it's just getting word out there, isn't it? That's probably the hardest thing for you.
Well, I guess the hardest thing, I mean, it is hard to get the word out there because, you know, it's such a taboo subject. I'm often not allowed to market on Facebook because once you talk about sexual fitness or once you talk about vaginal weightlifting, because I wrote the first book in the world on vaginal weightlifting. So once you talk about those things, you have, you know, you walk on the razor's edge of being overly sexualized or lewd or, you know, so, you know, I can say, oh, it makes you sexually fit, then that's very difficult. Or I can say, oh, it cures incontinence. And then for the women that want to be sexually fit, like I think the biggest difficulty for me is, I mean, even someone the other day said, oh, do you show people your private parts? And I'm like, no, like, so that's the biggest thing is that people don't realize that we can get dressed up and look beautiful. And all we do in my classes is we sit and stand and sit and stand because actually the exercises are all done in the privacy of your own body. So I think the hardest thing is getting rid of the puritanical views. I mean, some of my students, they say, wow, you really changed my life. I told my girlfriends I was going to a sexy yoga class or a pelvic floor exercise class, and they get these weird looks like, you really doing what? Are you really doing that? And that's really the biggest problem. And then, you know, you come to the class and you learn over 20 exercises to move the front, the middle, the back, the left, the right, quadrants of the pelvic floor basket independently to close the sacred chamber, which, you know, are we allowed to say, which is the vagina. So you cannot even say that without so much taboo, right, which is extremely empowering. You can actually move 3 independent sections of the vaginal chamber, perform advanced crossways, squeezes, and flexes, and use the jade egg in your practices and move them up and down, tilt them in different directions and move them left and right, you know. So it's phenomenal power that we have in our body. So yes, getting the word out there is very difficult. Even advertising in the news, like this year it wasn't so bad, but last year they said, you can't use that word, I'm sorry. So I couldn't use the word vagina in my advertising. So I thought, well, that's fine. You know, give me another word. What should we call it? Should we call it a hoo-ha? So that, you know, so we need this education so we can have a continent life, because actually the main cause of people going to aged care is not dementia, it's actually incontinence. So we need to, you know, I'm trying to move this mountain on my own, where I'm trying to break down all these walls for the sake of great healing and benefit for, you know, women and also men. And so that's the biggest thing, is breaking down the barriers. And, you know, it's just so profoundly important for your own personal power, for your sexual fitness, and to have a continent life. Because who wants to go to have somebody change their diapers in their old age? We already have to deal with their wrinkles, right? So it's just such a degrading and humiliating way to end your gorgeous life. So it's better to have good power in your body.
Yeah, so at the Escape, you're actually going to be speaking, and we are actually going to be doing the exercises during your workshop, but you're also going to be sticking around on the Sunday. So during free time, people can actually come up to you, ask a few more questions, and get into the nitty-gritty of anything that, you know, they want to discuss further with you that wasn't covered in the workshop.
Yeah, that's right. And I know you've given me nearly 2 hours, but, you know, always longing for more. And of course, I'm a driver, so I will really be very focused on how much I can teach in that short amount of time, in that short space. And, engaging with the women will certainly, once you become comfortable and you realize it's such a powerful and good for you and pure practice, you know, discussion opens up and women start sharing ideas and things like that. I'm definitely available for questions, and also I'm going to be taking my book, the Jade Egg, as well. So that will be available for purchase, probably at a discount as well. And also I'm going to take some Jade Eggs for women who are bold enough to want to use these gorgeous Jade Eggs in their body, which, by the way, is the only natural internal weight in existence. And just by wearing them, if you're a lazy woman, which you won't be after my classes, just by wearing them, you can strengthen your pelvic floor. So yes, I will be there to support the women and their journey towards their own empowerment. 100%.
Awesome. So yeah, it's going to be awesome. I can't wait. So to tie all this into the escape, can I get your opinion on why you think it's so important that women actually take the time out to attend something like this?
Yeah, because it's going to affect your entire psychology, your entire psyche, and your entire life. And, you know, not all of us are mothers, but sometimes we get so caught up in being mother, wife. You know, women can be very selfless, and which is a good thing, but sometimes it's important to be selfish. And in this country, we don't have this red tent events happening as much as we should. So I see this totem escape as a real opportunity for this kind of sacred escape for women, you know, who once we had the red tent where we would gather together and share our stories of, you know, empowerment and relating to each other. So I think it's a really good opportunity for women to gather together and to learn from each other and to take away some good soul food for their own well, you know, for their own empowerment, for their own longevity, for their own peace of mind, for their own serenity, and for their own calmness. And sometimes when you relate to other women, you think, oh, you know, I thought I was the only sane person on the planet, but actually there's a few more of us that are sane together, insane, of course, whatever. Then in that you get power in that relationship that you have with each other. And women should rule the world anyway.
Awesome. Totally agree.
We never send our sons to war because we're far too emotional for that, right?
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me tonight and sharing your wisdom. And I'm sure the women will be super excited to do your workshop and learn a whole lot more about moving the internals of their body.
Great. Awesome. I can't wait. I'll see you there, Sharon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.